Similar to the other fundamental principles of IHL, the principle of proportionality imposes restrictions on what actions can be taken during armed conflict. The principle of proportionality requires that before an attack can occur, a military commander must weigh the anticipated harm to civilians and civilian objects against the anticipated military advantage to be gained. If the anticipated harm to civilians and damage to civilian objects would be excessive in relation to the anticipated military advantage of the attack, then the attack should not be conducted. The principle of proportionality is not new. Like the other three fundamental principles consisting of military necessity, distinction, and unnecessary suffering, the principle of proportionality in armed conflict has existed in various forms across world history. In the 17th century, the famed international lawyer, Hugo Grotius, attempted to expand the definition of proportionality by writing, "One must take care, so far as is possible, to prevent the death of innocent persons, even by accident." In 1863, Professor Francis Lieber wrote about the importance of taking precautionary measures before attacking in his code for the Union Army during the American Civil War. Commanders should, whenever admissible, inform the enemy of their intention to bombard a place, so non-combatants, and especially the women and children, may be removed before the bombardment commences. Proportionality continued to appear in various forms in armed conflict throughout the 19th and 20th century. The principle of proportionality, as understood today, was written in its final form in 1977 as part of Additional Protocol 1 to the Geneva Conventions of 1949. Article 51 of Additional Protocol 1 states, "An attack should not be conducted if it may be expected to cause incidental loss of civilian life, injury to civilians, damage to civilian objects, or a combination thereof, which would be excessive in relation to the concrete and direct military advantage anticipated." There are four important things to note from this definition. First, proportionality only considers the impact the attack will have on civilians and civilian objects. The impact on combatants or military objectives is not considered. Second, the anticipated loss of civilian lives, injury to civilians, and damage to civilian objects is not evenly balanced against the anticipated military advantage to be gained from the attack. It is not even enough that the anticipated harm to civilians outweighs the anticipated gain to the military. The principle of proportionality requires that the anticipated loss to civilians must not be excessive in relation to the anticipated military advantage that may be gained by the attack. The principle of proportionality does not make it illegal to cause civilian casualties. Instead, proportionality focuses on whether an attack creates excessive civilian casualties and damage to civilian objects. Third, the proportionality calculation is not a precise measurement. The commander ordering the attack must use his best judgment to weigh the anticipated civilian casualties against the anticipated military advantage. It is left to the judgment of the attacking commander to decide when the loss to civilians is excessive. Fourth, to determine if the principle of proportionality was properly followed, it is reviewed using the standard of what a reasonable commander would have done under similar circumstances known at the time the decision to attack was made. It is important to remember that the commander's decision is reviewed based on the information that was reasonably available at the time of the decision. After an attack is conducted, it may be discovered that the actual loss of civilian lives and property was much greater than what was anticipated, or that the military advantage actually gained by the attack was much less than what was anticipated. While it may be human nature to judge the proportionality of an attack based on the perfect information that is available after an attack has been conducted, this would be unfair to the commander ordering the attack, as he must make his proportionality determination based only on the information that was reasonably available to him before the attack is conducted. To better understand how the principle of proportionality works, consider this example. A commander in the Army of Country A learns that 3 senior commanders from the Army of Country B will be meeting in a room in an apartment building. The commander from Country A believes that if he bombs the building, he will kill all 3 of the senior commanders from Country B. But he also anticipates he will kill 20 to 30 civilian residents and destroy the apartment building. In deciding whether to bomb the building, the attacking commander from Country A must ask himself if the anticipated loss of 20 to 30 civilians and an apartment building is excessive compared to the anticipated military benefit he would get by killing the 3 senior commanders. This example highlights one of the most difficult aspects of the principle of proportionality: the fact that there often isn't a clear right or wrong answer. The facts in the example can be adjusted to create more clear-cut answers, but proportionality is always a judgment call of the attacking commander. For example, if we change the facts to say there was one very junior enemy soldier hiding in the apartment building, and bombing the soldier would cause the deaths of 20 to 30 civilians and the loss of the apartment building, almost everyone would agree that the attack is not proportional and should not be conducted. Likewise, if we said that every senior leader in Country B's army was attending the meeting in the apartment building, and by killing them, the war would end immediately, likely saving thousands of lives, many would say that attack would be worth the loss of the civilians and apartment building. While these last two examples provide more clear outcomes, most applications of proportionality in real situations are not clear. Let's take a look at a real example of proportionality from World War II. In February 1945, U.S. forces were fighting in the Philippines to enter the heavily defended capital city of Manila. Subordinates of the U.S. commander, General Douglas MacArthur, repeatedly requested permission to use airplanes to bomb enemy positions in the city. General MacArthur refused, saying, "You would probably kill off the Japanese all right, but there are several thousand Filipino civilians in there who would be killed too. The world would hold up its hands in horror if we did anything like that." MacArthur decided not to conduct the air attack because he believed the loss of civilian lives by doing so would be excessive to what he believed he would gain by the attack. Military commanders engaged in armed conflict must make life and death decisions every day, often with imperfect and incomplete information. Their decisions not only impact the lives of their soldiers, but also the lives of the civilians in the area where they fight. IHL cannot completely protect civilians from the impacts of armed conflict, but by applying fundamental principles such as principal proportionality, it can work to inject humanity into it. Produced by the American Red Cross. If you have any questions, please contact ihlaw@redcross.org.